From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
And we have returned. We're not going to leave you hanging with these grim stories of crime, of depravity and tragedy, and stealing somebody's identity and then stealing their house. These are two terrible things. We wanted to end today with something that could maybe not be terrible, but it could also be terrible. I was thinking about how to get into this story. It amazed me. You guys know I read pretty widely about weird things like this. We all know what a sperm whale is. It's the most hilariously named whale, right?
If you're a child like we are, which we are.
Right. It's also sperm whale. It's also a incredibly intelligent cetacean. Its brain is enormous.
Ben, if I could, I just want to say I think it's delightful that you can both giggle about sperm whale, but then also use the very smart-sounding word cetacean. You contain multitudes, my friend.
It's too kind. That goes for every one of us, and every one of us listening at home. We do contain multitudes. Here's the thing. For a long time, people have been arguing over whether or not animals have something called language. For a lot of folks in academia and in the world of science, language is almost like one of the last bastions of human exclusivity. The more we have learned about animals over millennia, the more we have learned that they are, in some cases, capable of doing things that we would normally think only people could do. Like animals can make tools. Animals can teach their young knowledge transmitted across generations for a long time. My favorite birds, corvids, are an excellent, if at times disturbing, example of this. And cetaceans as well are incredibly intelligent. They have, you've all heard the idea of like whale communication. We've heard of whale songs, and you've probably gotten a chance to hear some of those online before. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's not exactly the newest Limp Bizkit album, but there's definitely a structure to it.
It is just one of those things. Wait, one of those days. Dang it! I screwed up the Limp Bizkit reference. Please continue.
This is one of those days.
Yes, that's our Limp Bizkit shout out. We did it, guys. We got there. So sperm whales actually speak in clicks. So they make these clicking noises. Think almost like Morse code, and they're rhythmic, and they're in these series called codas. And these codas appear to be communication. Now, people who don't believe that animals, non-human animals, I should say, can communicate through language would say, well, they don't have things like grammar. That turns out not to be entirely true. Grammar is the reason that we order words in the way that we order them, regardless of which language you're talking about, or at least that goes with most languages. There's this excellent article in The Atlantic by Christoph Drosser and Hakai Magazine, which is about the newest attempt to speak to whales, to speak to cetaceans. It's pretty amazing. But before we talk about it, I'd like for us all to recall one of the other famous attempts to communicate with cetaceans when people were getting LSD'd up with a dolphin, then eventually led to, there's no other way to say it, led to hand stuff.
Uh-huh. Yep. Those dolphins are some slippery critters, let me tell you.
Yeah. Well, he had a strong bargaining position.
Put him in a flooded chamber with a attractive lady, all hopped up on LSD. I mean, things are going to happen.
Some low lights, got Sade playing, a little bit of Quiet Storm.
Where do my hands end and your fins begin? Are they fins? They're not fins, are they?
There's a dorsal fin. It's got a fin on the back.
all right.
I believe the technical
Thinking
term
about-
is flappidoos.
The flappers.
Flappidoos, yeah. So okay. People have been people know that there is a complex communication pattern in a lot of cetaceans. Does it meet the standards of what people call language? That's still up for debate in a lot of folks' minds. But now the human civilization may finally have an answer to that question, because people are using artificial intelligence and machine learning to figure out whether sperm whales have a language and, if possible, whether humans can speak directly to the whales. This is the aim of something called Project SETI, Cetacean Translation Initiative. It's like SETI with an S, but they're searching for intelligence beneath the waves.
As above,
Okay.
so whatever.
Yeah, deep below. So, I mean, obviously lots of members of the animal kingdom, communicate. It's obviously functional, like, oh, there's predators over here, or we're just trying to, put out a call to let you know where other members of your, group might be, right? Is the sense that there's some sort of thinking that there might be more specificity to these whale conversations than just pings like a submarine?
Yeah, the idea is that because they have such high intelligence, the idea is that possibly if this program can work out what whales are saying and determines they are saying stuff to each other, then it would be possible for humans to maybe speak with them in their own language. But this is like, Noel, recently I lent you that book,
Yes.
The Story of Your Life and Others. And the Story of Your Life is the inspiration for that film, Arrival. And Arrival is about humans trying to figure out how to speak to something very, very different. So we would be in a situation like this with whales if this program works out. And there's still, like, it's not 100% right now. You have our word. There's not somebody at Project SETI discussing, the best parts of the ocean with a whale right now, right? Or, trying to figure out the flappidoo version of a high five. But this is much closer to reality than I think a lot of people might assume. And in my opinion, the reason I wanted to bring this to everybody is I'm surprised it's not getting more coverage. And it's an example of something that I think all of us have been looking for some time, which is highly sophisticated machine learning that's not used as a weapon of war. So, until
we put lasers on the whales and figure out how to mind control them.
Or until, if it's a true AI, what if it listens to the whales, it learns their language, and they make some really good points, and it's like, nope, the whales are right. Forget you guys.
Or we can start to use whales to, triangulate positions of naval crews, attack. Squadrons. I'm obviously not a military analyst here, but you know what I mean? Like, there would certainly be a way to weaponize this technology. That's how all good science starts. Not all, but like a lot of good science starts with the best of intentions and a purely exploratory kind of thirst for knowledge. And then the moment that it becomes worthwhile to co-opt into a military purpose, that thing will happen.
Yeah. Let's also consider that there's still a lot of speed bumps in the way. First, we have to understand what things are saying. It's not going to do human scientists any good to have a bot that, for its own sake, understands whale language and just talks to the whales, and the humans have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
Also, that could lead to some sort of mutiny in the world order. But if they can gather huge amounts of data, that alone is not going to be enough. The language, the clicking they're making. So as a matter of fact, what I'd like to do is have Alexis, could you play us a sound cue of a sperm whale communicating? Matt, Noel, check this out. Let me know what you think.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Weird. It's like it sounds like industrial music. It's just got like, it very much has this sound of like machinery, like a spoke, clicking or something like that. Like it's a very captivating kind of sound. Like it really does have this science fiction-y quality to it.
Yeah, it's also it's also enormously dangerous to humans. Like
Because decibel wise,
the vibrations, yeah. They actually use these buzzes, these clicks, and these squeaks in their hunting activity. So if you were too close, this could have a pretty rough effect on you as well. But the question again is this a language? It sounds so alien. You know what I mean? There are a few human languages that use clicks, but we may be asking ourselves, why would you focus this machine learning approach on sperm whales as opposed to some other whales? The answer is all in the clicks, because those are easier, candidly, to translate into something quantified, zeros and ones, click or not click,
Got
makes
it.
sense. It's almost a numerical language in some ways, right?
It may be, but again, there are a lot of people who think language is just for humans. The other big issue is that it's not enough just to relay this language. You have to know, if you want to see if the whale understands what humans are saying through these computers, then you would have to be able to decode the whale's reaction, right? Which would mean you'd have to know where the whale was when it heard this whale tail, and then you'd have to see, like, did it move differently? You know what I mean? Do whales have the equivalent of laughter? Do they have the equivalent of "get the hell out of my yard"? What do they have? What's in their toolbox?
I think the thing that a lot of people go back to in these kinds of stories is Coco the gorilla, but we have to remember too that Coco was taught to communicate with humans. It was a very human language forward situation, where Coco was taught to interact with humans and taught human sign language and all of that. So this would be like the reverse, and they have no frame of reference for any human concepts, right? It's the same. It was the same deal in Arrival.
Right.
You had to totally reframe your thinking about language.
Sadly, what experiences they do have with human beings are probably not positive ones, unfortunately. There's a funny line that that really got to me. The leader of the SETI program said the following. He said, "We understand that one of our greatest risks is that the whales could be incredibly boring." So, like, what if they're just funny nuts? There's sticks in the oceanic mud. I doubt that's the case, but I think it's humble for them to say it. I'd instead like to leave us with a quote by a guy named Michael Bronstein. He's an Israeli computer scientist who is teaching at Imperial College London, and he's one of the folks who's intimately tied up with Project SETI, and he said something that I'd like to share with you guys. He says, "I think it is very arrogant to think that Homo sapiens is the only intelligent and sentient creature on Earth. If we discover that there is an entire civilization basically under our nose, maybe it will result in some shift in the way that we treat our environment, and maybe it will result in more respect for the living world." Optimistic. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you think the whales are going to say?
Fuck you, humans.